Canto 1, 12th chapter, 20th verse. Esha data sharanyaha cha yata hi oshinaraha shibhi yashaha patanita svanam doshanti eva yajvanam. Eshadata sharanyascha yatayo shinara shibi yatayo shinara shibi yashovitanita svanam doshantir eva yajvanam. Ishadata sharanyascha yatayo shinara shibi yashovitanita svanam doshantir eva yajvanam. Ishadata sharanyascha yataya shinara shibi yashovitanita svanam doshantir eva yajvanam. Please speak, sing, chant. Ishadata sharanyascha yataya shinara shibi Ladies, please. Ishadasha sharanyascha shibi Anyone else? Ishadata Sharan. Yatha Anshinan Satsibi. Eshaha. Sorry. This child, Data, donor in charity, Sharanyaha, protector of the surrendered, Cha, and Yatha, as he, certainly, Oshanaraha, Ushanara, Shibhi, Shibhi, Yashaha, fame, Vitanita, disseminator, Svanam, of the kinsmen, Doshanti, Eva, like Bharat, the son of Dushyanta, Yajvanam, of those who have performed many sacrifices. Translation. This child will be a munificent donor of charity and protector of the surrendered. Does everybody know what munificent means? Raise your hand if you don't. Everybody knows? You don't? Oh, it's good. I'll define it. Okay, a munificent is one who is extremely charitable, big on giving. Lord Chaitanya is considered the most giving, the most munificent. Okay? So please remember, munificent means to be a big giver. Okay? Thank you. This child will be a munificent donor of charity and protector of the surrendered, like the famous King Shibi of the Ushanara country. And he will expand the name and fame of his family, like Bharat, the son of Maharaj Dushyanta. Oh, got the wrong page in. Excuse me. So, the purport. By Srila Prabhupada Ki. A king becomes famous by his acts of charity, performances of yajnas, protection of the surrendered, etc. A Kshatriya king is proud to give protection to the surrendered souls. This attitude of a king is called Ishvara Bhava, or factual power to give protection in a righteous cause. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord instructs living beings to surrender unto him, and he promises all protection. Okay? Let me hear one verse. You can give me in English or English and Sanskrit. Protection verse. Please, go ahead. Go nice and loud. Come on. Yeah, okay. Sharvadamat. Give the English, please. Loud. They want to hear. Good, wonderful, good. Anyone else have a surrender verse? There's quite a number of them. Come on, English. Good. I'm glad that some devotees are reading their Bhagavad Gita and memorizing. Thank you. Well, it inspires other devotees sitting here who may not know those verses that you mentioned to get on their horse. You know another one? Go ahead. Yeah, that's true. I don't think it's a Bhagavad Gita verse, but that's good enough for me. You got another one there. Go ahead. Let's hear the English. Okay? All right, moving on right along. Again, in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord instructs living beings to surrender unto him, and he promises all protection. The Lord is all-powerful and true to his word, and therefore he never fails to give protection to his different devotees. The king, being the representative of the Lord, must possess this attitude of giving protection to the surrendered souls at all risk. Maharaj Shibi, the king of Ushanara, was an intimate friend of Maharaj Yayati, who was able to reach the heavenly planets along with Maharaj Shibi. Maharaj Shibi was aware of aware of the heavenly planet where he was to be transferred after his death. And the description of this heavenly planet is given in the Mahabharata. That's Adi Parva 96.6-9. Maharaj Shibi was so charitably disposed that he wanted to give over his acquired position in the heavenly kingdom to Yayati. But he did not accept it. Yayati went to the heavenly planet along with the great rishis like Ashtaka and others. So do we know who Yayati is? Yayati is a very famous king. He didn't give birth, but his wife did, to 5 very well-known Kshatriyas. And one of them we keep talking about all the time. What is the name of that dynasty? Yes, it's the Yadu dynasty. Yadu was one of his sons. On inquiry from the rishis, Yayati gave an account of Shibi's pious acts when all of them were on the path to heaven. He has become a member of the assembly of Yamaraj, who has become his worshipful deity. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, the worshipper of the demigods goes to the planets of the demigods. Okay? What chapter is that from? What was that? 9, yes it was, it is. He goes to the planets of the demigods, Yanti Deva Vrata Devan. So Maharaj Shibi has become an associate of the great Vaishnava authority, Yamaraj. On that particular planet, Yamaraj has his planet. While he was on the earth, he became very famous as a protector of surrendered souls and a donor of charities. The King of Heaven once took the shape, we're starting a little story here now. The King of Heaven once took the shape of a pigeon hunter, bird or eagle, and Agni, the fire god, took the shape of a pigeon. The pigeon, while being chased by the eagle, this was a test, by the way, to test King Shibi and to let us know the level, the degree of sacrifice that Shibi was not only able to, but eager to make in order to fulfill the ideals of a great king. Being chased by the eagle, took shelter on the lap of Maharaj Shibi, the pigeon, went on his lap. And the hunter eagle wanted the pigeon back from the king. The king wanted to give it to some other. The king wanted to give it some other meat to eat, and requested the bird not to kill the pigeon. The hunter bird refused to accept the king's offer, but it was settled later on that the eagle would accept flesh from the body of the king of the pigeon's equivalent weight. The king began to cut flesh from his body to weigh it in the balance equivalent to the weight of the pigeon. But the mystic pigeon always remained heavier. The king then, I think he's Agni Dev, the king then put himself on the balance to equate with the pigeon. So, in other words, his weight had to come up to that of the pigeons. So what he was doing, he was cutting off flesh, okay, and putting it on the balance, the scale. But every time he put it on the scale, still, the flesh did not come up to the level of the pigeon's weight. So that meant he had to cut off more flesh to try to get it up to the weight of the pigeon. So more flesh, 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 flesh. He was a mass of blood, let me tell you that. So Maharaj Shibi sacrificed his own, well, we'll get to that in a moment. Sorry. The king of heaven and the fire guard, yes, so he doesn't give the end. Let me give the ending of the story here. So you'll find it in Mahabharata. So what happened is that he kept cutting off the flesh until all the flesh on his body was gone. He was fleshless. In other words, here we have a grown man and all the flesh doesn't even equal the weight of a pigeon. This was uncanny, but of course he was a great lover of God, and his belief, his understanding was the Lord must be doing something to create this very unique, unusual, amazing situation. Because no human being, after he cuts all the flesh, that flesh cannot be lighter than a pigeon. It's got to be heavier, but it wasn't heavier. So, but he was a complete, deep devotee of the Lord. He was so detached that he understood that whatever happens, even if it's unique, if it's unusual, it's unbelievable, the Lord must be having his say in this matter in order to test him, to create some particular situation, to teach all of us how to be sacrificial and not worry about our little losses. In his case, cut off all the flesh, and what did he do? He sat down on the scale, and still he was lighter than the pigeon. So, moving on with the story. Anyway, what happens is that all the demigods, after they see all this, they begin to acclaim him as being one of the most sacrificial persons. That's why he's being mentioned in the in this purport and also in the translation. He's being mentioned because he's known for his great, amazing determination and endurance for pain and suffering. He didn't complain. There was no, I'm bleeding, get the Band-Aids. There wasn't anything like that. He just took it. He just did it. So, moving on. Devarshi, and the king was blessed by the king of heaven, thank you. The king of heaven and the fire god disclosed their identity, and the king was blessed by them. Devarshi Narada also glorified Maharaj Shibi for his great achievements, specifically in charity and protection. You see, he gave a promise to this pigeon. The pigeon came flying down on his lap and said, "Protect me against this eagle. He wants to eat me." He said, "I will do that. I am the king. It is my business to protect all my subjects, and you too are my subjects." And Srila Prabhupada makes a big thing of that everyone in the kingdom is a subject. And it is the king's business to protect them where and when possible. Maharaj Shibi sacrificed his own son for the satisfaction of human beings in his kingdom. And thus, child Parikshit was to become a second Shibi in charity and protection. So this is an example that is given. In other words, the Brahmins now are speaking and giving somewhat of a horoscope. They're talking about the qualities, achievements, abilities, and accomplishments that King Parikshit would have and make, so that being told a very great king has just been born. So everyone should be very happy, enthused, enlivened that such a great king was to be born. And thus child Parikshit was to become a second Shibi in charity and protection. That's gone pretty far. Doshyanti Bharat. There are many Bharatas in history, of which Bharat, the brother of Lord Ram, Bharat, the son of King Rishabha, and Bharat, the son of Maharaj Dushyanta, 3, are very famous. And all these Bharats are historically known to the universe. This earth planet is known as Bharat, or Bharatvarsha, due to King Bharat, the son of Rishabha. Sorry. But according to this land is known as Bharat due to the reign of the son of Dushyanta. So remember, there are 3 Bharats. So far as we are convinced, this land's name, Bharatvarsha, was established from the reign of Bharat, the son of King Rishabha. Before him, the land was known as Ilarvata Varsha. But just after the coronation of Bharat, the son of Rishabha, this land became famous as Bharatvarsha. I'll read that again. Before him, the land was known as Ilarvata Varsha. But just after the coronation of this Bharat, the son of Rishabha, this land became famous as Bharatvarsha. I was always curious about that, which Bharat it was named after, but here we be given an answer. But despite all this, Bharat, the son of Maharaj Dushyanta, was not less important. He is the son of the famous beauty Shakuntala. Maharaj Dushyanta fell in love with Shakuntala in the forest, and Bharat was conceived. After that, Maharaj forgot his wife Shakuntala by the curse of Kanva Muni, and the child Bharat was brought up in the forest by his mother, Shakuntala. Even in his childhood, he was so powerful that he challenged the lions and elephants in the forest and would fight with them as little children play with cats and dogs. In my book, The Mystical Stories from the Mahabharata, you see the artist who did the job, he did such an incredibly great picture of it. And it shows this little 5-year-old boy holding up a lion, and the lion can't do anything. It's absolutely amazing. So he was known for his power, for his strength, his fierceness, his intrepidness, courage. Because of the boys becoming, because of the boys becoming so strong, more than the so-called modern Tarzan. I didn't know that Prabhupada was familiar with Tarzan. I mean, that's like from my day. Tarzan was known as he was born in a forest, and he used to swing from vines, That's how he traveled from one place to another. He would get on the vine. Anybody know Tarzan? Saw the movies? Okay, so he fly. And what did he do when he would go from vine to vine? What did he do? Yeah, right. Oh! Yeah, pardon? A TV series. Okay, well, that's good. See, I saw it when it was on the movies in the 40s. Really. So you know where I'm coming from. So, because of the boys becoming so strong, more than the so-called modern Tarzan, the rishis in the forest called him Sarvadamana, or one who is able to control everyone. A full description of Maharaj Bharat is given in the Mahabharata. Adi Parva, the Pandavas or the Kurus are sometimes addressed as Bharat due to being born in the dynasty of the famous Maharaj Bharat, the son of King Dushyanta. Yeah, Krishna refers to him that way. He refers to him as O Bharat throughout the Bhagavad Gita, O Bharat. Actually, it's a compliment because he's complimenting as being one of the strongest, the most powerful, the greatest. So we'll move on to the comments on this particular commentary. Oma Gyanati Mirandasya Ananjana Halakaya Chakshur Unmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto his lotus feet. So this purport is full of meaning and value and usefulness to all of us. Basically, when Srila Prabhupada has given this little story of King Shibi, it is to teach us a very, very strong and powerful and useful lesson. King Shibi was unafraid of anything. I mean, how many of us here are ready to cut even one little half an inch of flesh off his arm? No, nobody. I didn't think so. So, yeah, it's not easy. And he cut all the flesh of his body off, and then he somehow got himself up onto the scale and sat there, and still he was in debt, so to speak. So it's mentioned in the Mahabharata that this king would never be forgotten as a result of this particular sacrifice, because it is an amazing feat. This is only one of his many feats. So what it teaches us is that we don't have to go around cutting off our flesh. That's not the idea. What the idea is that we should take shelter of Krishna, depend upon Krishna, serve Krishna with all our heart and soul, and remember this great king, and also remember that whatever sacrifices, whatever surrender we are manifesting is nothing compared to this Shibi. So sometimes the devotee says, well, I mean, I'm doing devotional service, but I did 13 hours of service on book distribution today. I mean, that's plenty. That's nothing next to King Shibi. And from another point of view, we have so much arrears or debt to Krishna as a result of the enormous amount of sins that we have committed, not only in this lifetime, but in so many lifetimes. Every time you commit an offense, you owe something. Offense means that you cause some pain, you cause some suffering, you cause some difficulty, you cause some tribulation, some doubt, some problem. So if you cause it, well, you have to get it back. And that's called a reaction. So Krishna is so merciful that he doesn't demand for every wrong, every offense, every evil, every sin that we did. He doesn't demand a like. He doesn't demand a like. What you call offense. He's not saying that well, you did this, now I'm going to give you this. Now, for a person who is what we call a karmi, or a person who is a non-devotee, and a person who has no understanding of the fact that he can never be Lord, although every moment of his life he's trying to be the Lord of all he surveys, that it's a no-brainer. It can't be done. It will never be done. But the person in his madness, in his stupidity, in his folly, thinks, what do you mean it can't be done? If, as they say, if you put your mind to anything, you can be that. You can do that. You can accomplish that. This is the self-esteem school. How you win self-esteem. Yes, I will just be courageous. I will be courageous. I will be courageous. You say it over and over and over and over again. But that doesn't make any change within. It's an external change. It's a change in the mouth. And making sound in the mouth does not give you courage. But when a devotee takes shelter of Krishna, and Krishna, by his mercy, by his kindness, by his sweetness, injects with his own desire to give the devotee strength and power and perseverance, when Krishna injects from his own heart into the heart of the devotee will feel strength, will feel confidence, will feel determination. I know, going back years and years, how many things I was afraid of, even to get up and speak, quivering. But if you pray to Krishna, you cry to Krishna, Krishna, I'm weak. I can't do it. But you can do anything. You can do everything. You are everything. You are within everything, outside everything. Can you give me a little help? Little? I'll give you a lot. Because you're so humble. You're so retired. You're willing to admit that you have some weakness. I'll help you. So that kind of courage that Krishna injects into our heart, it gives us a real strength because it's coming from God, which is real. But this, I will be strong, I will be strong, I will be, it's just in the mouth. It's a fake. It's unreal. And this self-esteem nonsense doesn't go anywhere. If you want real esteem, as Srila Prabhupada says so often, gain it, get it, obtain it from the one who has more esteem than anyone anywhere in the entire universe, in all universes, and that is Krishna. And if we get our esteem from Krishna, and basically that's where it comes from. It's like that prayer that I say, and some other devotees say, my dear Lord, I am nothing except what you make me. I have nothing except what you give me. I know nothing except what you teach me. I do nothing except what you enable me. I accomplish nothing except what you arrange for me. And I want nothing except pure love of your lotus feet through pure devotional service. For then I will have everything. And if I have everything, what more do I need? Nothing. So that's a nice prayer because in effect what the devotee is saying is that all this accomplishment, all this prestige, all this glorification, all this honor is not mine. It belongs to Krishna. He's lending it to me, and just as he's lending it to me, he can remove it or take it away from me. And a very smart, accomplished devotee knows this. So he never allows himself to get proud. Oh, gee, just see my mastery. Just see how I speak. Look at my verses. I can shoot off 100 verses within 10 minutes. How masterful. How glorious. Who can do that? You know, that King, Lord Chaitanya, he put him down. He smashed him because he thought he was very, very powerful. Anybody remember his name? Keshava Kashmiri, yes. He thought there was no one like him. So that's a good example of what I'm just saying. We should never think we're important, we're powerful, we're great, we're anything. All credit must be given to Krishna. Thank you. Again, Krishna. Krishna. Good, I like that. Well, there he is. There's the king right there. So, yes, Krishna gives it to us. So when the temptation comes, and this is a little instruction here, I use it, and I'm learning and growing and developing from it, and all of you are too, if you're doing it, and if you're not, you will. All you have to do is, my dear Lord Krishna, okay, so many people are complimenting me, approving me, clapping for me, showing adoration for me. It all belongs to you. Therefore, I give it first to my spiritual master because I could never meet you unless I first met my spiritual master, who then gave me the potency by his good wishes like we say that, by the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember my spiritual master at least 3 times a day. Let me offer my spiritual master. So, with that prayer in mind, which we sing every morning, the devotee gives all the greatness, the glory, the wonder, the amazement. Give it to your spiritual master. And then understand that the spiritual master, who is not a power unto himself, but is a dependent of the Supreme Lord, will give it over to the Supreme Lord, to whom it belongs. So, whatever we get belongs to ultimately the Supreme Lord. We have no right to be proud. We have no right to think we're important. We have no right to applaud ourselves. We have no right to tell people, hey, did you know I did this and this? Hey, I distributed 5,000 books today. Did you hear about it? Or, no, we're nothing. If Krishna came down and did book distribution and he let you do 5,000, he could do 100,000 in one day. There is nothing he cannot do. So when we think of ourselves, whether we're tall or short or whatever, or whether we have a lot of money, no money, it all belongs to Krishna. It's coming to us from Krishna. And we should always be gladdened and grateful to Krishna for giving it to us, because we can use it in the loving service of Krishna. Sometimes I see the Christians, some of the saints, they're saying, this world is horrible. Money is bad. They don't know the program of Yukta Vairagya of Rupa Goswami. He never says money is bad. Sorry. He never says money is bad. He never says wealth is bad. He says all of this can be used in the loving service of Krishna. So how can you call it bad? It's bad if you only think it for material gain. But Rupa Goswami goes further. Why do we have to think of it for material gain? A palace can be used to worship Krishna. It could also be used to have, what you call sense gratificatory parties. You can have all these things. Is this the right time? I must be an illusion. Real big time. No, I saw Sora start heading out. I know I must be late. It is too late. So let me try to wrap this up as best as I can. It's a new year, so what the heck? So that's the idea there, that a devotee, he never keeps it for himself. And you have to repeat this mantra over and over and over, because you will keep it. You came here to be a Lord. That's why you'll keep it. But if you keep saying to yourself, no, I came here to be a Lord, but I can never be a Lord. So let me give it to the real Lord. The real Lord is Krishna. So I give it back to whom it actually, really and truly who deserves it. That's to you, Lord. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve you in this way. And thank you for trusting me with all this wealth and power and glamour, applause, all that. But I don't want it. I'll accept it on your behalf and give it back to you through my Guru Maharaj. So you can keep giving me all the money you want, all the power you want, all the everything and anything you want, because I'm not going to keep it. It's yours. So Krishna likes that. That's why he keeps giving to Prabhupada. He started, Prabhupada got a little bit. Then he gave more. Krishna gave him more and more. He had millions and millions of dollars coming in because devotees were taking the money, and what we were doing is buying more books and distributing more books. And so as a result, Krishna's mission was being disseminated. And that's what our goal must always be. I'm here for him and nothing else. And as long as I keep that in mind, I will be favored by him. As soon as I start to think I'm an entity unto myself, and I can do what I like, and I can be as big and great, as tremendous as I want to be, it's over. It's finished. It's gone. It's the end. You've lost it. And let me tell you, hundreds, if not thousands of devotees in this movement I've seen over the last 43 years that I've been here have come and gone because they had just this particular mentality. And I want to prevent that. That's why I'm emphasizing it. That's why I'm almost shouting it. I want no one to fall down here. No one should fall down with this mentality. Every morning, say it. I am not an entity to myself. I am Krishna's servant. And as Krishna's servant, I will give everything that I receive back to Krishna, thinking that I'm always giving him too little because he's always giving me too much. Okay? Appreciating that he gives us too much, we can only be thankful, grateful, loving, serving, surrendered, submissive, and all giving. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki. All glories to Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Hare Krishna. My best wishes to all of you in this new year.
It's not the book. This is the one I write. So we'll give you half Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Ite Namani.
Well, we were waiting for Srila Prabhupada. We were having kirtan, and then suddenly Prabhupada just appeared there. It's like he was like a genie out the lamp, I guess. No, it wasn't only me, because I was with Ribhati-nanda and he was chanting and playing mridanga, Ribhati-nanda Maharaj. And he also he said, Prabhupada, he just suddenly, Prabhupada, he just seemed to stop. And Prabhupada was just standing there, very aristocratic. And then he was just looking at all the devotees there, one after another. And then he looked at me, the new bhakta, and then, he just looked straight through me, and as if to say, I'm looking for you, I'm coming for you, not what you think you are, all these identities you have. I'm seeing you as Krishna's devotee, I'm coming to get you. And I was thinking that, I'm standing here in Calcutta airport, I'm completely naked. The whole world is watching me. I've got nothing to hide from this man. He's seeing me. So then everybody had a garland to give. They went forward and offered their garlands. So I went forward to offer my garland also, and I had a little brass bowl with rose petals. They said, when Prabhupada comes, you should throw these petals before him. Anyway, I went and I offered the garland to Prabhupada, and the little bowl I still had in my hand, it just touched Prabhupada here, and it made a little ringing sound. It was just ding, like as it. But I was so close to Prabhupada at that time, in his eyes, I was looking at his eyes, but it didn't even blink. You know, when something comes close to your eyes, so what to speak of touching your eye, but Prabhupada, it didn't blink, it didn't even waver. And I thought, wow, this person is completely peaceful, completely tranquil. You know, my ideas of spiritual life was, you know, that complete peace, harmony. You walk into the water, no ripples coming out and things like that. And this was that Prabhupada. You know, what I'm looking for, what I'm aspiring for, what I think is spiritual, Prabhupada's got it. He's got what I was searching for. And a lot of other devotees had that same experience when I spoke to them. What they were looking for, they saw it in Prabhupada. I don't think it was Prabhupada manifesting it, but I think Krishna was manifesting it. Here, what you're looking for, you found in my devotee. And then I paid my obeisances, and when I got up, no one was there. I don't know how long I'd been paying my obeisances. Anyway, by the time we got back to Calcutta, Prabhupada was already in the temple. He was giving his lecture, arrival address lecture. So I thought, now I'm going to hear Prabhupada. I've been reading these books, and now I'm going to actually see him. So I sat down, and he had already started his lecture, so the first thing I kind of heard him say was, so do not try to see God. And I thought that what we're supposed to be doing. We're all out there seeking, and I thought that was the whole idea. We come to look for God. I meet the greatest saint I've met so far, and he's saying, do not try to see God. But then he said, but you act in such a way that God will see you by a performance of your devotional bhakti. You know? So that was the first impression of meeting Prabhupada there.
So it was February of 1971, and I joined the temple at Sevenbury Place in London. And Prabhupada was coming in August. So Mukunda Prabhu, now Mukunda Goswami, was a temple president, and he recognized that I had some clerical skills. So besides going out every day and chanting on Harinam and distributing Back to Godhead magazines, I also spent some time in the office every day. So preparing for Prabhupada's arrival, possibly because, again, I had some clerical skills, I was sent to a shop in London to pick up a dictation machine for Srila Prabhupada's translations. Now, the dictation machine, of course, is a machine itself, and then there's a microphone with an on-off button and then a coiled wire. So I picked up the machine, I brought it back to the temple. Prabhupada was at the temple by that time, and I gave it to his secretary. The next day I was called into Prabhupada's room. And I was, oh, what's going on? So I knocked on the door, entered, paid my obeisances. Prabhupada held up the microphone. He said, it is useless. Oh my goodness. I received the microphone from Srila Prabhupada, ran, it was probably 20 minutes or so, to this shop, replaced the microphone, ran back to the temple, and gave it to Prabhupada's secretary. Perhaps it was Shyam Sundar. The next day I was called into Prabhupada's room. This time, however, he was holding the microphone and he was absolutely beaming. So I, Mr. Too Much Information, began to explain to Prabhupada that this and this and this is what was wrong, what were wrong with the previous microphone. And he stopped me. He said, I do not want to know what was wrong with the other microphone. I'm simply happy that this one is working. So he taught me this lesson, that details and facts that I may find absolutely fascinating, if they don't really help the spiritual master in his mission, don't burden him with unnecessary information. Simply do your duty to the best of your ability, and that is how he will be pleased. A few days later, It was after the morning program, perhaps 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, and just a few devotees and I were in the temple. Again, this was Seven Place in London, and the curtains were open, and we were chanting before the deities. All of a sudden, Prabhupada walks in. We immediately fall flat. We get up. Prabhupada comes very, very close. There was a little guardrail, comes very, very close to Shri Shri Radha London Ishwara. He observes them. And then I said, with folded palms, I said, Srila Prabhupada. I said, Srila Prabhupada, do you like the way Lord Krishna is dressed? He said, he's very beautiful. Then he stood there observing the deities for a little longer. And then in my mind, I simply thought, and Srila Prabhupada, what about Srimati Radharani? He paused and he looked at me and he said, Srimati Radharani is also very beautiful. So Prabhupada was demonstrating that although he appeared in human form, he had capabilities and consciousness and powers far beyond those of any mortal human being.
At that time, we were having a Pandal program in Deshapriya Park in Calcutta. It was during that period. And so then after the program, Prabhupada would generally be invited to someone, either a relative of his, because they knew him, or a local person. But now Prabhupada was the hero. He came back with his Western disciples. And so we all went to this house. It's one of those typical Bengali community houses, you know, with the open space in the courtyard in the middle, and everyone was there, all the noise and all the kids, and Prabhupada was kind of completely relaxed, and all the commotion, everyone was coming in and settling down. Prabhupada was just sitting down there relaxed. All the kids and everything playing around the low. And Prabhupada was kind of just getting settled. And I was in the room, and I was packed up, and I was sitting up the back wall. I was sitting next to Jadabar's wife, Vishaka Devi. She was Jean at that time. And Jadabar got initiated at the same time. He was John, right? Yeah. And but she didn't get initiated at that time. She got a bit later. But anyway, I was sitting next to her and talking to her, you know, about Krishna consciousness and how great it is, and Prabhupada and things like that. And you know, I was just brand new. I didn't know, in India especially, there wasn't such much emphasis on separation of the men and women. We didn't know at that time, do we, in those days? So anyway, I was rapping away with Vishaka, and then Prabhupada, at the time he kind of got settled, and then he was, and then he started looking, and I could see he was kind of straining it a bit, and he was looking at me, you know, and I thought, am I doing, and he had like a kind of a stern look on his face, and I thought, am I doing something wrong? And I thought, well, I guess I am. I've just got initiated. I got this saffron cloth on, and I'm talking to this Mataji, and there's all the family members are out there. That's their culture. They know the culture very well, and and I think Prabhupada was, and I said, I think I better finish talking. I kind of moved away from Vishaka Devi, but I think Prabhupada was showing a little bit of his disapproval that I was doing, but we were pretty innocent in those days.
When I first joined, the one thing that kind of put me off was how devoted the devotees were to Srila Prabhupada. Because of my personalist conditioning and dark heart, I couldn't understand how could they be so excited about this one person. And I had started reading Bhagavad Gita, and that's where this torchlight of knowledge really lit up my heart. Because previous to that, I had read different books by Ramakrishna, and even though it's very flowery and wordy and thick, there's no real practical application. So reading Bhagavad Gita was like really wonderful like that. And so when we went to see Srila Prabhupada for the first time on Wednesday evenings, the devotees would go up. I hadn't actually joined the temple yet. We piled in a car and went up. And I had these questions since I was a young girl. basic questions like, who am I? Where am I going? What am I doing here? And even though my father taught theology at Loyola Marymount, he had no answers for me. So it was so amazing that I had these questions, and I thought I'd ask, but when I got there I was overwhelmed by all the devotees and all the enthusiasm. I didn't have the courage to raise my hand and ask Prabhupada any questions. But when he came out and he gave the lecture, he answered every question in order that I had in my mind. It was so amazing. And I knew there that this is why everyone is so enthusiastic and so devoted to Srila Prabhupada. So that's when it first started.
At my initiation, I remember 3 of the 4 regs, and then I thought, what was the last one? And I kind of completely slipped my mind, and I said, oh, intoxication, Prabhupada. Because that was the only thing I was into, actually. I've been in India kind of, so there was none of the, I was trying to follow everything, but we were following the sadhus and everything in India, and they were smoking and everything like that with their intoxication. I was surprised. I said all the 3, but the one I was not doing at that time, and I looked at Prabhupada and smiled, and oh, no intoxication. He said, okay, good.
So I flew to Bombay in a cheap flight, and I did my research, started my research. I had a camera with me, a film, to develop, to work with. It was, in those days, it was Super 8, I think. And then a little recorder for sound. And I started walking around Bombay first. Just went to all different places. I went to temples, and I could not find any Krishna temple. I saw deities, Vishnu deities, Shiva deities, Durga deities, Ganesh, a lot of Ganesh. I could not find Krishna. And I was not just looking for Krishna, I wanted a temple where Radha was involved. So Radha and Krishna temple. Because that was the song. It was about Krishna, Rama Krishna, and Radha Krishna. Because the name of the group, the Prabhupada's band, was called the Radha Krishna Temple. So I went there and I spent about a week first, and I stayed in cheap hotels. And then one day I was going to Nariman Point. It is like the rich area. And there were even less temples there. The temples get smaller. And some of them were in trees. And then somebody said, oh, I know there is a temple, there's a Krishna temple. So I said, is that Radha Krishna temple? He said, yeah, Radha Krishna temple, Radha Krishna temple. So he pointed out where it was. It was one of the skyscrapers there. I can't remember the floor. But I went up, I took the elevator, and I found the Radha Krishna temple. But it was the Hare Krishna temple that I already seen in the Netherlands. So I went inside, and then a lady was there, Madhuri was her name, and she asked me to sit down and thank you for coming here, and she gave me a glass of water. And she said, you know, please feel free, the deities are here, they're for you to have a look at and see how beautiful they are. And so I said, the devotees will come soon. She thought I was probably looking for some devotees. So then, about an hour passed, 2 hours, and then finally the devotees came in. Narayan opened the door, Haribo, Haribo. Then I met Shyam Sundar, and they wanted me to come with them to Juhu. They said, our Guru Maharaj is there, and he's going to speak. There is a pandal. I didn't know what a pandal was, but he was going to speak. And I know he was a very powerful person, because he did it so quick. He just totally changed the idea about India by just having the Hare Krishna mantra become very popular, even on the pop charts. So I was like, that is quite amazing that I'm going to see Srila Prabhupada, or Prabhupada tomorrow, or the Swamiji. And so we took the taxis and we went to Juhu, and it was, the pandal was ready there, and then Shamsundar asked me to tape, because he forgot his tape recorder. So I used my little equipment, and that's when I did taping Srila Prabhupada first, who was sitting in the Vyasasana, and I was taping a little microphone on the big microphone. And I sat down. I just followed Shamsundar, said, so you just sit down next to Prabhupada there. I still had long hair. So Prabhupada sort of looked over to the left, and he was just wondering, who is that there? So anyway, he gave his lecture. It was very hard for me to understand because of the accent. And then also the sound was a little bit coming back, so it was not an echo, but it was a little bit difficult to hear. So anyway, I sat there, and then it was over at 10 o'clock. Everybody went, and then we had to go to sleep. So then they invited me that I could join the devotees on the roof, so I had to sleep on the roof, which was quite common, because when I hitchhiked earlier, we slept on benches, we slept on cars, and in whatever place you could find for some shelter. So the roof was comfortable. There was a mosquito net. I was protected against that. And I went there, I slept. I was next to Dinanath. He was chatting a little bit. He likes to talk. He did a lot of the kirtans in those days. And he was very nice to me. He preached a little bit, and he said, you know, this and that. And then he said, well, I might be getting up early in the morning, but you don't have to. I said, okay. So I was, when it was morning, and I could hear that people were leaving, you know, putting the mosquito nets down and all the goodies, or cover it up. And then I was still in the tent sleeping, and then Brahmananda woke me up that I have to get up. It's time for Mangalarti, and you can go down. Then he saw I was a guest, so then he said, okay, but you can go to Mangalarti anyway. So I went down, put my clothes on. I had no time to shower. And then I was there, and somebody gave me some beats, and I was trying to figure out how to do that. And then Mangalarti was over, then there was a little time, half an hour, I was just sitting there, a little bit lost. So Brahmananda came back to me and he said, 7 o'clock this barber opens up here, and you shave your head and leave the sika there, this one is there, and here's a rupee. Okay, thank you. 7 o'clock I went to the little barber, playing the typical Indian music from the film music, very loud, and there were all these other people, they getting shaven, and so they saw me with a long hair like this, and they had to prepare me, so they knew what was going to happen. I didn't know, even the barber knew. So I come back from there, Brahmananda was waiting for me, and I said, okay, you go with Shamsundar, and you go, Prabhupada wants to see you. And then it was like, I was getting nervous a little bit. But in no time, Shamsundar had put me in the room, and Prabhupada was doing something. I think he was speaking or recording or writing. And he looked up and he says, oh, he said, now you're very beautiful. He said, sit down, please. And then he smiled, and he sort of looked at me, and I was very humble, like looking down. I was afraid to look at him. And then he spoke. He said, what is the purpose of decorating dead bodies? And I looked up, and I looked at his eyes also, and I said, no purpose. He said, exactly. He said, Krishna has sent you here to design this temple. And it was like, it was an instruction that I could handle, I could deal with, because he said design. Because I was a designer. So I said, well, this is maybe, it's like in school, okay, this is your project. So I got this project. But then it got more, because he said, also tomorrow we have a very important day. It was the day after yesterday. It is the day when we're going to put the foundation stone for the temple here. And you will get initiated. And I said, thank you very much. And Shamsundar, he is going to give you some paper, some pens, and some pictures, and you can start right now. And that was, to me, everything made sense. It wasn't like he's telling you something and then it sort of will disappear, you know, it is like a story or... No, he had planned it. There was paper already, there was already photos that he had collected for me to look at, study, how he wanted it to be. So he gave me full direction, full support, and I had to sit outside of his room on the veranda next to the secretary. And regularly he would come out and see, either he would do something with Shamsundar or he was very active, and he would look over my shoulders, and then I could see he was nodding his head, and Shamsundar was looking up to him and he was smiling, so Prabhupada liked it. So I spent 2 days there. I made drawings and then I handed everything to him. So before that, I'm going to forget this again, the second day we had to go out there. It started early in the morning for the fire sacrifice for the Juhu temple and the initiation. So I was together with Banu. He was a Japanese devotee. He got Brahmin initiation, whatever that was for me, but he got a thread around his neck, and I would get first initiation. And we were just 2 devotees there, one Japanese, one Dutch, and it all happened in India. And all different circumstances, and different people were there. And there was a very good mood. It was, Prabhupada was in the Vyasasana and he was smiling, beaming of joy, sort of. He thought it was a great thing. I was nervous like anything. Later on I saw on the films of Yadubari, I was filmed on there. And I saw myself standing there trying to join the kirtan. And that was before I got the initiation, and I was just, everything I could just see, that I was totally unaware of what was going on. I wasn't there. It was an absolute confusion, and I didn't know how to deal with it at all. But because I was quiet, nobody noticed it, but I just saw myself. And even my partner, she saw that film and I said, you didn't know what you were doing there. I said, no, I was lost. So then we sat down, fire sacrifice starts. It's over, you get the thing on your face, and then Prabhupada started chanting on the beach. First Banu, I think. No, I was first. He first chanted on the beach, and then he called me over, and then he put the beads around, and then he gives the name. So he said, he didn't say your name. He said, yeah, your name is Zorro. Zorro. The accent was very strong, and I tried to relate to it because I thought there will be a Krishna in it. There will be something about, you know, what everybody wanted to be, a name that is, you know, has substance, and it has has a ring to it. You know, everybody, when you have that name, everybody will like you. Now it was, for me, what I understood, it was Zorro. And I didn't have the courage to ask him again what he was saying. So I just took like Zorro. I just saw that sword going with a Z, Zorro. Then some devotees, when I came, I went back to my place, They said, what's your name? What's your name? I said, Zorro. Zorro? I said, yeah, you said Zorro. So they said, oh, that cannot be Zorro. I said, no, I understand Zorro. I said, and Shamsunda came over and said, what's the problem? I said, well, Prabhupada gave me the name Zorro. He said, oh, that cannot be. I said, just wait, I will ask Prabhupada. So later on he went over to Prabhupada, and then he came back, he said, he wrote it down, and your name is Saurabha. Saurabha. I said, what does it mean? I don't know. So I was almost half a year that I had no idea what, and I asked people, what does Saurabha mean? Nobody could tell me. Apparently later on there was 2 or 3 explanations I got. One was it's a Bengali word for nice fragrance. So I was thinking, I'm not a flower, you know. It's a nice fragrance. And another one interpretation was it was a very great poet. He was a very important sadhu in those days, but he was not in the Vaishnava line. He was more towards the Persian, Middle Eastern style of thought. I thought, well, that's interesting. So I just accepted that, and I said, well, I definitely have a different name. And this is also, I could see that Prabhupada put me a little bit in a different area, that it would not be too religious for me. So it's either beautiful smell, great poet. And although I was then, because of that, I suddenly felt I should be more religious. But you know, what can you say? This is it, you live with it. And actually it sounded quite okay. So I was Saurabh. So that was all the years when I was working on the temples, except in the last year, when Prabhupada was already very ill, that I received the sannyas, and that my name totally changed into, so he knew, Surabhi Ravi Palayantam Das Swami. It was a long name, and it was a good name for me, because it was so different from Saurabh, and I felt I'm part of it now.
I believe there are many devotees like myself that were initiated by Srila Prabhupada that had limited to no association with Prabhupada. It kind of didn't matter. I've spoken to many devotees like this, that we've shared these experiences. I saw Prabhupada a few times. I was with Prabhupada in a room in a darshan once. That was the closest I got. I saw Prabhupada in '72 in Boston a couple times, but I was a new devotee. I was kind of spaced out. And I saw him in Pittsburgh once, New Vrindavan. Anyway, somehow I didn't have that close association, but I remember one interesting story that the closest I ever got to Prabhupada, I left, this is the time where I was saying that I had left the movement. I was living in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and there was a temple in Chicago. And I'd seen posters up that Prabhupada was going to be in Chicago. And I was trying to kind of avoid the devotees so I didn't have to feel that Jewish guilt of, I know what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm not doing it. But somehow Prabhupada's picture on the poster was irresistible, and I thought, I have to go see Prabhupada. I have to go see my spiritual master. So I took my girlfriend to the temple in Chicago, and this was the time of the big initiations. Everybody was there. All the big guns were there. And at first I talked to, I forgot, I think it was Mohanananda or Manu, and I told him, you know, I'm playing music, and I said, but don't let anybody know that I'm playing music. It was Maya at that time. And so within 30 seconds, Drishtadyumna Maharaj, at that time Drishtadyumna Swami was talking to me, and he was like, oh, so you play music? I'm like, come on. And he said, you know, he said, let me get Tamal and over here. And so it was Tamal and Drishtadyumna, and then they brought me in the room with Tamal, Drishtadyumna, Vishnu Jan Swami, and they were, and basically Tamal Krishna Maharaj was really going at it with me, and he said, listen, and he was preaching to me very strongly. But it was compassionate. He was caring for my soul. But one of the reasons I was trying to stay away from the devotees was because I knew once I got in the association of devotees, I just wanted to stay. So keep in mind, I brought my girlfriend to the temple. She had never been to a temple. We were an hour-and-a-half drive away. And Tamal said to me, he said, listen, if you want to see Prabhupada, you're going to have to surrender right now. Move in with us right now. It's like, oh my God, you're kidding me. So I thought, oh my God, this is a golden opportunity. I got to do it. And I just like threw everything to the wind. I told my girlfriend, listen, you're going to have to find your way back. Tamal he was heavy back in those days. So anyway, I came to the darshan room. I remember Prabhupada was sitting in the whole room was, it was somebody's apartment that Prabhupada was staying in near the Evanston Temple, Evanston, Illinois. And Prabhupada was sitting on the whole floor was covered with white sheets. Prabhupada was sitting on in front of on the floor on a cushion, low desk, looking very regal. And Tamal Krishna was introducing people to him. And so there's Prabhupada. Tamal was over here, and I was kind of in the back on the opposite side of the room. And Tamal, then he said, and for Srila Prabhupada, and this is your disciple, Badarayan. And he left for some time, but now he's come back and he's surrendering now, today, to join the Devotees Association again, to be with you. So Prabhupada, he was looking at Tamal, he was like, looked at Tamal, and then he very slowly, like in slow motion, picked his head up and was like, and just stared at me for about 3.5 seconds, didn't say a damn thing. And it was mind-blowing, really. It just like saw right through me and all my nonsense, and I was like, okay, I'm staying. So the look that Prabhupada gave me was a resident of the spiritual realm, an aristocrat from the spiritual realm, who saw everything about me and accepted me fully for who I was, despite my innumerable faults and bumbling. You know, I'd left the movement. I gave up his association. And so it was simultaneously all-knowing, in that, not all-knowing in the sense all-knowing, he knew everything about me. That's what I got. And all compassionate, and all forgiving, but at the same time pregnant with, okay, now you be serious. It was pregnant with that. That it wasn't like, okay, you're off the hook. I forgive you. No, I forgive you now. Get your life back on track. Be serious. That was intense. That was intense.
Another thing Prabhupada didn't like was the mosquitoes. And there were millions and millions of mosquitoes, and we were the only light around. We were on the bank of the Ganga. There was no other lights. As soon as we lit the kerosene lamp or candles, and immediately all the bugs and mosquitoes would come. So we used to burn the cow dung to make smoke. And Prabhupada, he quite liked it. We were all crying and everything, stinging, but Prabhupada, it didn't affect him. And he quite liked it. He said my Guru Maharaj used to have his chapatis cooked on this gobar, this cow dung patties. Gives them a very nice flavor. But he would complain sometimes. He said, I just put my hand under the mosquito net to get my books, and immediately they're coming biting my hand. So Prabhupada was completely unfazed in Mayapur. There was no running water, there was no electricity or anything. He had a jute stick toilet, you know, a hole in the ground with some jute sticks around it. But still he followed exactly the same schedule. He couldn't use his dictaphone machine because there's no electricity. So he had his typewriter under his mosquito net on his bed, and he would type out with his 2 fingers. The purpose was unfazed. He got up at the same time he went out for morning walk, come back and greet the deities. Even though there's no facility, it didn't faze him. He was just his old schedule he kept maintained perfectly.
There was a Rath Yatra festival in 1970, and everybody went up, when there were festivals like that, everybody in the temple would just piled into vans and cars, whatever, would go and drove up to San Francisco. And I was pregnant at the time with my first daughter. And there were 7 devotees left here to maintain the deities and take care of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada was flying up Sunday morning. And Saturday evening, because there weren't many devotees, and I couldn't do a lot of different service because I was only like a month before giving birth. And so I was at the at Arctic. I was the only one there. And in the old temple room, there were these doors that we'd sometimes leave open for circulation. And somebody threw in a cherry bomb. And it made a very loud noise. And basically, I was fine. I just had fallen down and paid my obeisances, and not sure what was happening, but I knew I was raised with 4 brothers, so it wasn't totally an unusual circumstance. But Srila Prabhupada heard it. He immediately called for Karandar, and he was very concerned about what that was. And he asked, he says, "Is everybody okay?" And Karandar says, "Well, there was a pregnant woman in the temple room, but she's okay." And Srila Prabhupada was so concerned. I was touched by that. Karandar came and told me. And then the next morning, when Srila Prabhupada came to greet the deities, and we greeted the deities, and then he went and sat in his Vyasasan, and we sat on either side of his Vyasasan. I was on the very end. And Srila Prabhupada asked each person individually, "How are you doing? Is everything okay?" But I actually got overwhelmed. I couldn't believe how compassionate and how truly concerned he was about the devotees, that he would ask me. I was so embarrassed that I wanted, literally, I was thinking if I could just crawl under one of these tiles and hide. And so when Srila Prabhupada got to me, he just smiled. It's like he knew I couldn't talk. But then he taught us additional prayers for the Nrsimha prayers. Before we would chant Tavakala Kamala Varenakam, and but then he taught us prayers of, I believe it's Jayadev Goswami, Namaste Narasimhaya. And so he taught us these prayers, and he told us, he said, "You chant these every day after Artik, and Krishna will protect you." And through the years, I've realized that Srila Prabhupada was teaching us not only how to live and go back to Godhead, but how to live in this material world. And that Srila Prabhupada, who was Abhay Charan, fearless at the lotus feet, he was teaching us also to be fearless. That's such a wonderful personality, Srila Prabhupada.
Another time I was in the Bhajan Kutir Prabhupada, and probably an owl or a bowl, probably a bowler. These are different, what do you say? These were different groups of spiritualists, or so-called spiritualists, coming, Gauranga Bhaktas, but the upper Sampradaya, what we call upper Sampradaya. So there were quite a few of these different groups who were often bringing Radha and Krishna pastime down to a mundane level. And so anyway, on this one, what they call the ekatara, it's one string, one wire, and one gourd, and they make a little instrument. And so he come in, and we could hear him, and he was singing, Om Jai Jagadish Hare Om Hari Om Jai Jagadish, playing his ekatara. And Prabhupada said, "You know that song?" I said, "Yes, Srila Prabhupada. I learned it when I was in Kashmir." He said, "Mayavad, go and stop him." And I thought, well, and I was a new devotee. I thought, well, as a sadhu, you don't you don't tell sadhu to stop chanting. But I had to do it because Prabhupada was told me to do it. But anyway, by the time I walked out, he had already started leaving and gone. But Prabhupada said that in this temple, the TOVP, he said no Mayavadis can come in. No Mayavadis, no Langis. Langi means just a piece of cloth wrapped around, kind of this kind of casual wear. The Hindus usually wear it when they go home and they take it. No Langis and no atheists. They cannot come in, he said. No Mayavadis, no Langis, and no atheists. So this was a Mayavadi, he told me, tell him to stop.
On the way back to the London Temple on the same walk, Srila Prabhupada all of a sudden stopped. I was at the kind of the rear of the line. He turned around and looked at all of us. He could have been looking at me. And he asked the most unusual question. He said, why is it that one person will pay much more for the same object than other people? Well, I was thinking, is this some kind of official policy question? So I began asking the older devotees. Prabhupada asked, and then I explained the question. No one had an answer. So then Prabhupada looked back at us all and he said, simply because someone wants to pay more than everyone else. So Prabhupada was demonstrating not only was he completely conversant in the science of Krishna consciousness, he had an in-depth understanding of human psychology, of business psychology, and of human nature.
1971, and in Bhajan Kutir, and Prabhupada was sitting on the veranda with one of his godbrothers, and I just finishing worshipping the deities, Radha Madhava, who were there. And I took the Chanamrita bowl over to Prabhupada and I said, Chanamrita, Srila Prabhupada? And he just tilted back his head and he opened his mouth. And he let me pour the Chanamrita in. It's, you know, like he was my God, he was my father, he was everything for me. And then he's acting like a little kid, you know, like dependent. Prabhupada would always come out with these different, you get different pictures of Prabhupada, he's different. And then his godbrother did the same and put the Chanamrita in his mouth. But the very first time I gave him Chanamrita, I offered him, and then my hand began to shake uncontrollably. I'd never done that before. He'd never done it since then, but I was looking at my hand and looking at Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was just smiling, looking at it. And then I stopped, I was able to give him. But I took it as, you know, this is the first, like, a direct service I'm giving to Krishna's the pure devotee, and Maya's, you know, this is it. It is the beginning of the end. You've finished. Do a little bit of service for Prabhupada.
So that is how I got Prabhupada into my life so strong, so deep, that everything was for him at that moment. But not for him like a fanatic. It made so much sense again to me that I can do this. He makes it possible. If I would get restrictions, got to be this, got to be that. Although Juhu was very particular about the look of the temple, but the temple was so beautiful, that Nugavinaji temple was very sort of an influence of Italian style. You could see the Renaissance in there, from that period when, in the colonial days, were exchanges of culture and art. And that was intriguing. So that Prabhupada liked that. It was, to me, again, easier to relate to it, rather than having to make a South Indian temple, a South Indian style temple. But nothing happened. About 3-4 months later, when I stopped working finished the book with Vishaka Devidasi about the presentation of the Juhu project with 2 skyscrapers and theater and restaurant, then I got a message from a devotee that Prabhupada wanted me to go immediately to Hyderabad. There was land donated at Nampally Station Road, and he wanted me to go there to work on the temple, to design the temple. So I took the train, And I went to Hyderabad, and there was a big pandal there, and it was a very different mood, South India a little bit, sort of in the north of South India. And then Prabhupada was sitting there, and then there were all these very rich, very well-to-do, high-class Indian communities were there, and then, so I came over and he called me in. This is our architect. And everybody went like this. He is going to design the temple here. So it was like he brings in people from the West, or he makes you like that we are coming there to do something and to get to respect both ways. We learn how to respect the Indian culture, and they learned how to respect the West. That we have come, he would give many times the example of this boy here, his father is a very famous lawyer in New York or in Boston, and his son, he studied at university, got all the degrees, and see, he's become my disciple. And he's very intelligent. And this person and this person, they're all very intelligent people. They are looking for Krishna. And they have come to India to learn about Krishna, to learn about your culture that you have forgotten, that you are giving up. And they're coming here to build the temples, to do the book distribution, to teach the world about Krishna. That was his way of working. It was, from the West you bring in the best from the West, from the East you bring in the best from the East. And that goes versa, because Prabhupada's being the ambassador for Vrindavan ultimately, and going around the world and spreading the Harinam was the most important thing that India has ever done to the world. And it was just one single person. And in the same way, what he has done to us has been the most important thing for the West, to learn from what the old things are and to help preserve it, because the West is good in preserving. They have great museums. In my town they have old buildings, 600 years old. They don't knock it down, they keep it up. That is the mood. The mood is to preserve things, to have it for next generations to see it. In India you also have a lot of buildings preserved, but they are huge, big blocks of stone and everything. But anything smaller than that just falls apart, is not maintained, it just disappears. So he wanted that two kind of mentalities to go together and then work together and then do the most incredible things. So we were from one place to another, then later on I had to go to Nellore, he would call me there, and then again, this is our architect, very talented architect. He's now doing Vrindavan, he's now doing Mumbai, so he would sort of play us up too, and it makes us feel good. So Prabhupada was very proud to have us with him. And then that service in India, which had, like so many people feel it's that hardship, it became a pleasure. All the obstacles that we faced, all the problems and the climatic differences, the heat and the turmoils, the rains that we had to go through, all of these were just little hurdles, and they were just part of what we had to go through to catch up with austerity, to catch up with sacrifice that we never learned to do. Our parents did because of the world wars, but it wasn't a Western thing. If you fall in a bad position, then of course that is your bad luck. But everybody wanted American lifestyle, American dream. Easy going, everything will work. You have an idea, it will work. Just believe in it. That was the future. That was America. Even in Europe it didn't exist. But Prabhupada liked that, because that would be helpful. It's a very positive attitude. So even if these people that can think like that, send them to India, let's see how long they can keep on thinking like that. So we had those shifts. We had those first shift, second shift, third shift, like a whole plane full of devotees, practically. They would go to Bombay first, or always in Bombay first. Then a bunch would go to the south, and others would go to the north, to Vrindavan, to Mayapur. They were all divided up. And then 6 months later, another group would come, because about 50% were just not able to make it. And then by the end of the day, there was only 20% of one of those groups that would fly in. And we were there, you know, we were like the, you know, we were the first. And then we would just, oh, here they come again, you know, let's see. They're all very white-skinned and haven't seen the sun yet. And then you say, let's see how long they last, you know. And then they would be warned. They was taking pills against malaria and jaundice, and then we would say, yeah, you can take the pills, it's okay, but you got to get the spirit. You're going to love it being here. You won't get sick. If you don't like it, if you start complaining, you better take the next plane home again. So that was India. And all of that was kind of, Prabhupada was just there, and then he was going to the West again, and then he was continuing all his projects over there, and then he left it to us. Slowly he was going less to India. It was set up. The land problems had to be still dealt with, but he had the feeling we would get where we wanted to be. Vrindavan was quite easy. It has had some problems. But Ramareti got established first. Bombay had difficulties, but 3-4 years later it got also sorted out. Mayapur always have problems because of the communist government there. That is an ongoing thing. But things were established and some construction had started. So then there was money problem. We could not collect in India. Book distribution was not a way to do it. So Prabhupada created a life membership program. People had to sign up. But they didn't know, because we had nothing. We had books, we had pictures of the West, we could show the life membership devotees that were preaching to the higher class, richer class Indians. They would look at pictures somewhere in LA, somewhere in New York, we have this, we have a temple there. But they were like a little bit suspicious about things. And it would take some pushing and a little bit like challenging them. This is your culture, we are doing this for you, what are you going to do? We want to do this in India. And they would think, we have everything in India. We have all the temples here, we have all the deities here. Why you want to bring more? And then it was like, what would we be able to give them that was not yet in India? That was the most difficult thing in our preaching program there. What is different from what we are doing, which is very new and in many ways full of mistakes. They could see our mistakes. We were not Brahmins, we were not a priestly class, we didn't have degrees to be a Pandit. We didn't know Sanskrit, we didn't know that culture, we had no little bit of information about history, most of it learned from the West, which is not their history. So they couldn't see it. What are we going to do how are we going to help India? Like for them it was just give us money, you know, we are poor, just, it's better, you know, build schools, hospitals, charity, that is good. But to make more religions in India, is that we have more religions in India than anywhere else, you know. Vaishnava, well we have, yeah, okay, Vaishnava, this, you know, I have my Guruji here and then picture on the wall. And you can't talk them out of their Guru, that is, they do their worship with a little garland. So I was going on these membership trips sometimes, the preaching going on, and it was annoying to me. I was thinking, this is not good for me, because